Hey there, drowsy historian here. Tonight you're not a soldier or a rioter or a name they'll print in tomorrow's paper. You're a Korean-American business owner in Los Angeles, April 1992, which mostly means you're watching the world unravel from the roof of your family's store with a borrowed rifle and no backup coming. The police have left, the media isn't looking, and everything your parents built, the late nights, the language barriers, the quiet humiliations, is about to be tested by fire. Before the looting reaches your block, before the smoke settles over Koreatown and the headlines get it all wrong, do me a favour. Leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing who's tuning in for these historical bedtime stories from around the world. If you want early access to more calm, bitter walks through the worst parts of history, ad-free audio of these episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable, let's begin. You wake up to the sound of the television, too loud, too early. That's nothing new. Your father always turns it on first thing in the morning, even before the rice cooker. But today, instead of lottery numbers and weather reports, it's wall-to-wall coverage of a courthouse. The screen is split. One side shows a crowd gathering outside the building. The other shows 4 white men in suits, seated stiffly at a defense table. The volume is low, but you don't need sound to feel it. Something's about to drop. It's April 29th, 1992. Koreatown is still standing, for now, but it's bracing. You can feel it in the air, in the way your father keeps glancing at the screen, like it might explode, in the way your mother stirs her instant coffee with the same circular motion over and over. The verdict hasn't been announced yet, but the city already feels cracked around the edges. Everyone's pretending it's a normal Wednesday. It isn't. You live above the store like most of your neighbours. It's cramped, always smells a little like oil and dust, and the water heater moans when you shower too long. You grew up in this building, counting instant ramen packets like they were currency, playing with register tape like it was confetti. Your parents never called it the American dream. They just called it rent. The store downstairs sells beer, chips, lottery tickets, aspirin, motor oil, cheap jewellery, and hope by the ounce. It is everything they've built. It is also everything they could lose. You shuffle downstairs and flip on the shop lights. The fluorescent hum is comforting in its sameness. You do the usual, unlock the cooler doors, check the register tape, straighten the hanging bags of dried squid your cousin says smell like feet. Outside, the street looks normal. A kid runs past with a backpack. An old man waters a potted plant that hasn't bloomed in 3 years. Someone honks. The normal noises of a neighbourhood pretending not to sweat. The TV is still on in the corner, angled toward the counter. A reporter talks over B-roll of the Rodney King beating. Again. You've seen it so many times the blows don't even shock you anymore. They just hollow you out. Over 50 baton strikes. A man curled on the pavement like meat. You don't need the narrator to tell you what the charges were. Assault with a deadly weapon, excessive force, and a country holding its breath to see if anything will actually happen this time. You ask your father if he thinks the jury will convict. He doesn't answer right away. Then he just says, Simi Valley? And you understand. All white jury, all white cops, one black man, no cameras in the courtroom. The math adds up before the gavel even drops. Still, you pretend to believe in possibility. It's habit. Are you served the regulars? A man buys a six-pack and leaves exact change, like always. A woman in scrubs buys 2 scratchers and a bottle of soda, chatting like nothing's brewing. No one says the word riot. No one has to. It's hanging in the air, behind every half-joke and lingering glance. Everyone's trying to get their errands done before the sun does anything stupid. Around lunchtime, your cousin drops by. He doesn't even pretend it's a social visit. He walks in carrying a black duffel bag and a look that says he's already read tomorrow's headlines. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. You seen the courthouse crowd? He asks. You nod. You think it'll be bad? You ask. He opens the duffel. Baseball bats, flashlights, a pocket radio, a half-used canister of pepper spray. You stare at it for a second too long. He doesn't answer your question because he knows it doesn't need answering. Your father joins you at the counter. He says nothing, just folds his arms and stares at the door like he's daring someone to come through it wrong. Your mother sends down sandwiches wrapped in plastic. She doesn't say anything either, but she lingers at the bottom of the stairs before she goes back up, like she's checking the weather with her face, like she can smell what's coming. By mid-afternoon, the courthouse footage goes full screen. The anchor's voice drops. The screen flashes breaking news. You don't need to be told it's happening. You just tighten your grip on the counter. But the verdict hasn't been read yet. There's still a sliver of something pretending to be hope. You look around the store. Every item, every shelf, every price tag, all of it built from sleep deprivation and savings. You remember sleeping under the counter while your father did inventory. You remember learning to count by tracking inventory on sticky notes. This place is your inheritance, your responsibility, your prison, and your pride. Your cousin checks his watch. Any time now, he says, and you feel something curl inside you, tight, cold, and waiting. Upstairs, the rice cooker dings. The smell drifts down like a reminder that people still eat, still breathe, still live, for now. The jury is coming back in. You don't sit, you don't blink, you just wait. Because whatever's about to be said, it's not just about a verdict, it's about whether or not this country is going to let you keep what your family bled to build. It happens just after 3 p.m. The camera cuts to the judge, and your heart does that thing it always does when something irreversible is about to happen. The anchor is still mid-sentence when the words land. Not guilty. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. All 4 officers who beat Rodney King acquitted. You don't speak. No one in the store does. Your cousin mutters something under his breath that your mother would have smacked him for if she'd heard. Your father leans back slightly, arms still crossed, as if to say of course. And maybe that's the worst part. You're not even surprised, just tired in a way you don't have words for. The news doesn't even pause before cutting to the streets. Outside the courthouse, the crowd moves all at once. Not a cheer, not a groan, but a lurch, like something ancient just shifted in the ground. You see a man throw a sign. Someone else kicks a trash can. The volume on the television goes up slightly, like even the anchors can't pretend this is fine anymore. The broadcast cuts between aerial footage and confused, stammering commentary. They keep saying the word tension, like it's a forecast. Outside your shop window, Koreatown is still pretending it's business as usual. The corner taco cart is serving a short line of workers. A kid skateboards by like nothing happened. But you can feel the air change. The quiet gets heavier. The wind carries something sharp. And down on the far end of the street, a group of teenagers you don't recognise walks by a little too slowly. One of them throws a glance at your window. It lingers. Then he grins and keeps walking. You pick up the phone and call the LAPD non-emergency line. It rings 8 times before someone answers. You give your address. You describe the group. You say they're loitering, circling storefronts. You use calm, helpful language. The dispatcher says someone will look into it. You say thank you. You hang up. You know nothing's coming. Your cousin stares at you. They said they'll look into it. You nod. He laughs once, joyless. Then he reaches behind the counter and pulls out one of the bats. Just holds it for a minute. We should call again in case they forgot we exist, he says. It's not a joke, but you both sort of laugh anyway. You wait. The group circles back around 15 minutes later. This time, they knock a trash can into the street. One of them yanks on the handle of a security gate 3 shops down. Your neighbour across the way is already pulling his metal grate shut. He meets your eyes through the glass and gives a little nod. Not quite panic, not quite resignation. Just a gesture that says, we both know what's coming. You call the LAPD again. This time, it doesn't even ring. Just a long pause and a recorded message. All operators are currently assisting other callers. Please stay on the line. You don't. Your father watches quietly, then locks the front door and flips the sign to closed. It's not even 4 o'clock. The sun is still up, but already the neighbourhood is folding inward, like a creature sensing a predator. You walk to the back office. The bat is already gone. Your cousin took it earlier. You open the filing cabinet anyway. Inside, behind the tax folders and warranty slips, is a dusty cardboard box your father hasn't touched in years. You pull it out, peel back the flaps, and find what you're looking for. A rusted metal flashlight, a Swiss Army knife with only 2 usable tools, and an old revolver you didn't think he still had. No bullets, no keys to the lockbox, just the shape of a threat that no longer functions. You close it back up. Outside, sirens pass without stopping. 2 fire trucks headed south. No police cruisers, no patrols. The scanner blares codes you don't know and some you do. One voice says, "Officer down." Another says, "Shots fired." None of them say Koreatown. By 5, you've called 3 times. No one's come. You turn on the portable radio your cousin brought, AM only. The news plays interviews from South Central, and the reporters sound panicked. There's no mention of your street, your stores, your neighbours. You might as well not exist. Your mother brings you a bottle of barley tea and says to eat something. You take a bite of the sandwich from earlier, but your mouth's too dry to finish it. You go upstairs, open the closet, and bring down an old army bag your uncle left behind years ago. You don't know what you're looking for until you find it. A pair of binoculars, some batteries, a small 2-way radio that crackles to life when you test it. You don't know if anyone else in the neighbourhood still has the matching frequency. You'll find out soon enough. The streetlights flicker on. The street is empty now. Just you, your cousin, and the knowledge that nothing's stopping what's coming next. You look out the window and realise something simple, cold, and deeply familiar. The police are not coming. Not now. Not for you. It happens before the sun is even high. Thursday morning, April 30th. You've barely finished sweeping the entryway when the first brick flies. It doesn't come with a warning. No crowd build-up. No chant. Just a dull thunk and a burst of glass. Sharp and sudden, like the world sneezing violence through your front window. You freeze for a second, not fear, just disbelief. You've been bracing so long, you almost forgot what impact sounds like. The brick rolls a half circle on the floor, leaving a trail of powdered glass and silence. Then comes the scream. Not yours, not your cousin's, someone outside, high-pitched and thrilled. And then chaos follows right on its heels. Your cousin yells something you can't hear over the sound of the security gate clattering down. He's already on the handle, trying to drag it shut, but it sticks halfway. Always has. You both slam into it with your shoulders, and it gives just as the first shape slips through the broken glass. Someone in a hoodie, face wrapped in a bandana, a crowbar in hand. He shouts something, not at you, at the others behind him. They surge. There are 3, then 5, then more. You don't know how many. They scatter fast like roaches with a map. One grabs at the shelf behind the counter. Another heads for the cigarette case. You lunge at the first one, arms swinging wide with the bat, and connect with something soft. You think it's a shoulder, maybe a back. The guy stumbles and snarls, but he doesn't leave. Not yet. Your cousin hurls a can of pineapple at someone's head. Misses. The guy laughs. You shove another man backward by the chest and scream words you don't even plan. Just noise and rage. The words "get out" leave your throat like they belong to someone else. You wish you believed them. You wish they sounded like more than panic pretending to be threat. Then one of them grabs your cousin's arm. Just for a second, it's enough. You swing again. This time harder. It connects. The looter stumbles back, swears, and finally bolts through the door. The others follow, peeling out fast, carrying nothing but a few crushed snack bags and half a carton of smokes. One trips on the door frame and leaves a sneaker behind. And then they're gone. Your cousin slams the gate fully shut this time and locks it. You lean against the counter, chest heaving. You're shaking. Not from fear, not entirely. Your adrenaline's doing something cruel to your blood pressure. The bat in your hand is slick with sweat. You stare at the mess, broken shelves, a puddle of juice from a burst bottle, crushed chips ground into the tiles. One of the looters peed in the corner. That one makes you angriest for some reason. Not the theft, not the damage, the insult of it. You grab a broom and start sweeping, not because it helps, but because your body needs to do something that feels like control. Your cousin moves toward the back and pulls out the walkie-talkie. He flips through channels, trying to find the others on your block. Most are just static. One voice answers. You don't recognize it. Just a man shouting in Korean. They hit the pharmacy. He doesn't say who they are. He doesn't need to. About 20 minutes later, a police cruiser drives by. Slowly. Too slowly. The officers don't get out, don't stop, don't even roll down their windows. They look through the cracked glass and keep driving, like they're just out for a scenic tour of someone else's bad day. You and your cousin stand there in silence. You don't wave them down. You don't flip them off. You just watch them go, as useless as the revolving door on a burning building. Your father comes downstairs, eyes dark. He says nothing at first, just surveys the mess, then quietly boards up the broken window with 2 pieces of particle board you didn't even know he had. He hammers without talking. That's how you know he's angry. Not the loud kind, the kind that gets quiet and cold and heavy. Your mother doesn't ask what happened. She just places a cold washcloth on your cousin's neck, then goes back upstairs to boil more water. Not for tea, for cleaning. She brings down a bucket 20 minutes later, and the 3 of you scrub the floor, like you're trying to erase something that isn't just spilled soda. Around noon, your neighbour from the electronics store drops by. He's got a split lip and a gun tucked under his coat. He says the looters hit his place too, took 3 boom boxes and punched his teenage son in the stomach. He shows you the bruises like they're receipts. Then he asks if you want to coordinate overnight watches. You say yes without even thinking, because now it's real. Now you're not hoping it won't come here. It already has. By evening, most shops on the block are shuttered. Not just closed, sealed, with plywood, tape, mattresses, whatever people had. Spray-painted signs say things like, minority owned, and children inside. You don't know if they'll help, but people do it anyway. Like magic spells. Like maybe the looters can be reasoned with if you just phrase your desperation the right way. The sun sets pink and yellow behind a bank of smoke. You hear yelling a few blocks over. Another siren passes, faster this time, but still not stopping. You and your cousin take turns standing near the boarded window. You count how many bricks are still on the sidewalk. You count how many times you check the locks. You count how many hours until dawn. But mostly, you count how many things you thought would protect you. That didn't. The police scanner doesn't sleep, so neither do you. You and your cousin sit on overturned crates in the stockroom, radio balanced between your knees, volume turned just high enough to catch the voices without attracting attention. It speaks in bursts of static and numbers now. 211, 245, 1071. You've memorized them all. Robbery, assault, gunshots fired. There's no emotion in the dispatcher's voices. Just codes layered over sirens and the occasional muffled scream in the background. What's not said matters more. Koreatown gets a mention maybe twice in 5 hours. Both vague, both dismissed. Once it's suspected looting near Western, and then nothing. No units sent, no follow-up. The second time, a fire near Olympic. No details. You imagine the flames, the roof collapse, the panicked shop owner with a garden hose. You wonder if he's still hoping the fire department's on its way. You hope not. You feel it somewhere deep in your chest now, not just intellectually, but in your bones. No one is coming. Not the police, not the fire trucks, not the National Guard. You're a mile-wide blind spot in a city that claims to be watching everything. There are helicopters circling downtown, but they never come this far west. The floodlights never sweep your streets. On the news, Koreatown doesn't exist. It's just South Central, Los Angeles, urban unrest, a blur on a map, a smudge of smoke on a screen. Your cousin clicks off the scanner and says it out loud. We're on our own. It's not a revelation, just a confirmation. You nod and stand. The adrenaline has ebbed, but what's replaced it is worse. It's not fear exactly, it's duty and dread. You look around the store, still intact somehow. Boarded, sealed, tense as a jaw before a punch. It won't last. Not if you just sit here waiting. So you go next door. The dry cleaner's still open. Barely. The owner, Mr. Choi, is sweeping up glass and pulling down what's left of his awning. You tell him what you've heard, what you haven't, and what you're planning. He doesn't ask questions. He just nods and says, "Wait 1 second." He disappears into the back and returns with a baseball bat and a walkie-talkie. It's already on your frequency. You do the same with the liquor store across the street, then the corner shop, then the woman who runs the bakery and lives above it with her 3 daughters. None of them say militia, but that's what it is. Quiet, desperate, heavily improvised. Everyone brings something. Radios, flashlights, a half-dozen hunting rifles that haven't been fired in years. Your uncle, the one who did a year in the army back in Korea, drops off a flak vest he kept in a suitcase, just in case. He doesn't say much, just hands it to you and mutters, "Don't waste it." Your cousin works out a shift schedule. 2-hour rotations, pairs on rooftops, check-ins every 30 minutes. You tape handwritten signs on the back doors with call signs and codes that only make sense if you're sleep-deprived and scared. You borrow a ladder from the hardware store down the block and set up your first rooftop post. It's not high, just 1 floor up, but it gives you a view. Not of the whole block, but enough to see what's coming. You bring up a folding chair, a backpack full of water bottles, some leftover kimbap your mother wrapped in foil. You try to keep your rifle in your lap, but the metal is too cold. You set it beside you, within reach. Your cousin takes the next roof over. He waves once. It doesn't feel comforting, just confirming that you're both here. The night air is sharp, not cold but biting, and the sounds don't stop. Sirens in the distance, pops you tell yourself are firecrackers, even when you know better. Laughter that sounds too wild to be friendly. Somewhere a scream, then silence. You press the talk button on your walkie. "Block 3, all clear," you say. A crackle. Then Mr. Choi's voice. "Copy. Block 2 also clear." He sounds tired. Everyone does. Around 2 a.m, a patrol car finally drives by. You see it from the rooftop. 2 officers inside, windows up. They slow at the corner, glance at the boarded storefronts, then roll on. You lift the radio to your mouth but say nothing. You don't need to. You already know. Later you'll hear secondhand what one officer reportedly told a shopkeeper in another part of town. "You people take care of yourselves." Not "we'll be back," not "stay safe," just that. Like a verdict, like a farewell. You stay up until the sun starts to colour the sky, then trade places with your cousin. Your legs are stiff, your eyes burn. You climb down the ladder slowly and walk back into the store. Your father is waiting. He doesn't ask for an update, just nods and presses a cup of barley tea into your hand. It's cold now. Everything is. You sip it anyway, and then you start counting inventory. Because that's what you do. Because that's what's left. You never imagined yourself on a rooftop with a gun. You didn't grow up playing soldier. You didn't play war with sticks or make finger guns at your friends. You preferred books, quiet things. You once got a nosebleed from a poorly thrown dodgeball and decided reasonably that violence was not for you. And yet, here you are, born in California, allergic to confrontation, crouched behind an AC unit, with your father's old hunting rifle resting across your knees. The rifle is old enough to vote. You're not even sure it's legal. You know for a fact it jams when it rains, because your uncle tried to take it camping once and spent half the trip cursing under a tarp. The wood is splintering near the trigger guard, and the scope doesn't align properly, but it's what you've got. That, and a bag of vending machine snacks, a half-charged walkie-talkie, and the vague hope that looking armed is just as good as being ready to shoot. You're wearing your dad's old vest too. He says it's military issue, but that's a generous description. It smells like mothballs and old sweat, and it fits you poorly. Too loose in the shoulders, too tight at the hips. You found it in a box labelled emergency, right beneath a flashlight that doesn't work, and a roll of duct tape that mostly just tears into ribbons. It's all theatre anyway. You're not trying to win a fight. You're trying to look like a bad idea. Your cousin's on the next roof over, perched behind a row of stacked paint buckets, like he's reenacting a scene from a movie he half remembers. He's wearing sunglasses, despite it being night. Says it helps with glare. You don't argue. He's been calling himself the Forward Scout and insists on giving radio updates in military jargon. You let him have it. He needs something to hold on to. Everyone does. Your uncle is 2 buildings down, propped against a vent pipe with his cap pulled low and one eye open. He hasn't spoken much since yesterday, just nods and gestures, and keeps checking the chamber of his shotgun like he doesn't quite trust it. You don't know where he got it. You don't ask. You're all making things up as you go. He's the only one who ever saw real action. 1 year in the Republic of Korea Army, guarding a supply post that never got attacked. He once said the most dangerous thing he faced was boredom. Now he watches the street, like it owes him a fight. You try to stay focused, watch the shadows, track movement, log details, but it's hard to concentrate when your stomach won't settle. You haven't eaten a real meal in 2 days, just handfuls of chips, lukewarm barley tea, and the occasional bite of rice wrapped in foil. Your throat is dry, your back aches, and the rifle feels heavier every hour you hold it. Down below, the block is mostly quiet. A few flickers of motion here and there. Someone sprinting across an alley. A truck idling longer than it should. A pair of figures ducking behind a bus stop and then disappearing. You learn quickly what's worth reacting to and what's just the city twitching in its sleep. The real danger never announces itself. Around 2 a.m, your walkie crackles. Movement on Vermont might be casing the pharmacy. Your cousin's voice, still calm. You sit up straighter, raise the rifle, and peer through the warped scope. You see a group of 4 figures, moving quick and low, glancing around. You radio it into Mr. Choi 2 rooftops over. He replies with a sharp copy. Eyes on you, don't engage, just watch. The group keeps moving, doesn't stop. Doesn't test any doors, just ghosts in the smoke. You exhale, long and tight. There's a rhythm to it now. Watch, wait, radio, repeat. Your brain starts to categorize things. A car backfiring is just noise. A trash can tipping over means nothing. A running figure is only dangerous if they're carrying something heavy. You learn how to read urgency by posture. How to tell fear from boldness by the angle of someone's shoulders. Still, there are moments that shake you. A scream too close. A bottle shattering. A fire in the distance that glows brighter than it should. You grip the rifle tighter. You remind yourself you don't actually want to use it. That you probably couldn't, even if it came to that. But your body doesn't believe you. It's already bracing, already calculating angles, already humming with the kind of sick electricity that doesn't care how much you hate confrontation. At some point, your legs go numb. You shift, slowly, quietly, afraid to make noise that might echo. You stretch your back against the vent, roll your ankles, take another swig of warm water. Your cousin radios again, this time just to say he saw a rat the size of a house cat. You both laugh, soft and tired. You need the joke. The sun doesn't rise so much as seep into the sky. Pale, bruised light bleeding upward behind the buildings. You lower the rifle and sit cross-legged, exhausted. Another night survived. Another line not crossed, yet. Your cousin radios again. Changing shift. You good? You press the button and answer. Yeah, still here. And that's the whole thing, really. Still here, not safe, Not fine, just still here. You always thought sandbags were for floods, maybe hurricanes, something natural and indifferent, not for defending a corner store from people who grew up just as poor and pissed off as you. But now, you're filling rice sacks from the storeroom and hauling them to the roof like they're going to stop bullets. The sacks were supposed to feed your family through summer. Now, they're your barricade. You stack them in a half moon around the AC unit, tamping them down with your boot, like you saw in a movie once. You're not sure it helps, but it makes you feel like you're doing something. And that's half the battle right now. Your cousin's already turned the roof into a logistics hub. He's got walkie-talkie frequencies scribbled on the inside of a flattened cereal box, a crude map of the block sketched in pen across it. He colour codes buildings, green for intact, red for looted, orange for boarded but unconfirmed. It's not tactical. It's not even especially useful. But it gives you a way to measure the shrinking shape of what's left. The church down the street pitches in. One of the younger guys drops off a handful of walkie-talkies and a box of instant noodles. He says he was going to donate them to the shelter, but it burned down on Wednesday. You thank him and he nods, like he already regrets not bringing more. He stays a few hours running rooftop messages between buildings, then heads back with a promise to return. You don't believe he will. Not because he's lying, but because the city is chewing through people faster than they can show up. Around noon, a neighbour's kid appears with something that looks like a drone. Sort of. It's got duct tape around one arm, and the camera lens is covered in what you hope is just grease. He offers to fly it over the block and check for fires. You ask how long it can stay up. He shrugs. Till the battery dies. It lifts off with a high-pitched whine, dips sideways twice, then steadies. It's not recon, it's not surveillance, but for a brief second it makes you feel like you have a sliver of vision beyond your own rooftop, like you're not completely blind to what's coming. Your uncle spends the afternoon reinforcing the ladder with a rope anchor, muttering something about tactical retreats. You pretend not to hear the part about fallback plans. No one says the word retreat out loud. You're not sure what you'd fall back to. There's no second line of defence, no safe house, just more roofs and locked doors and the shrinking faith that anyone outside your block gives a damn whether you make it through the week. Inside the store, supplies are thinning. You've stopped selling anything. You locked the front gate yesterday and bolted it this morning. No more customers, just survivors. You raid the vending machine for snacks and ration them like contraband. A pack of crackers here, a single soda there. You split them between watch shifts and try to keep blood sugar from crashing. At night, you boil water on a camping stove your cousin found in the back of the dry cleaners. It smells like dust and fuel and bad decisions, but it works. The watch shifts are tighter now. 1 hour each, never alone. You tried longer stretches, but people started nodding off. On the third night, someone fired a warning shot at shadows that turned out to be a cat. After that, you cut the shifts short and doubled the pairs. It's not efficient, it's human. You can't risk someone blinking at the wrong moment. The fires come closer each night. First, you saw one flickering 5 blocks away, a dull orange glow behind the grocery, then another behind the laundromat, then 2 at once, one on either side of your block. You can see the smoke rising, thick and greasy. You hear explosions sometimes, propane tanks, car batteries, electrical pops from overloaded wires. You hear cheers too. That's the worst part, not the chaos, the celebration of it. Someone's winning out there, and it's not you. Every night, you call 911 once, just to say you did. It's ritual now, like brushing your teeth or praying. You don't expect an answer. You just want the timestamp, the tiny proof that you tried. The line clicks, a message plays. You leave your name, your address. You describe the latest fire, the new graffiti. The looters spotted 2 rooftops down. Then you hang up, set the phone aside, and load another bottle of water into the cooler you keep at your watch post. You tell yourself this isn't war, that this is still your neighbourhood, that once things calm down, you'll take down the sandbags, sweep the roof, reopen the shop, and life will pick up where it left off. But that's a lie you only halfway believe. The sandbags are still up, the fires are still burning, and outside of your little map with its cereal box grid, no one's even looking your direction. You fall asleep behind the AC unit at dawn, wrapped in a jacket that doesn't belong to you, listening to your cousin murmur updates into the radio like they matter. This is the American dream now. Not freedom, not justice, just a sack of rice and a place to hide. It takes 3 full days for the national news to even say the word Koreatown. 3 days of fire, gunshots, and sirens that don't stop anywhere near you. 3 days of boarded windows, rooftop watches, and phone lines that only ring out. You've been waiting, stupidly, for the cameras to turn, for someone in a suit to point to your block and say, "This is happening here too." But when the coverage finally comes, it doesn't feel like recognition. It feels like insult. They call it South Central, over and over, like it's the only part of Los Angeles burning. Like your store, your roof, your exhaustion, none of it counts unless it fits into their version of the narrative. The anchors fumble through sanitized scripts about racial unrest and protest violence, their voices polished and vaguely concerned. You scream at the TV when they mention a gas station near Vermont that's been damaged in the crossfire. Your dad's store is gone, not damaged, not caught in crossfire, deliberately looted and burned while the fire department drove past twice and never stopped. But no one says that. Your cousin throws a slipper at the screen. It misses, thuds off the wall, and lands face down on the rug. You both watch it for a second, like it might change something. The news rolls B-roll footage from Florence and Normandy again, day-old clips replayed on a loop, carefully curated to focus on the same street corners and the same 3 burning cars. The camera never pans west, never shows the buildings still smouldering along 8th Street, never shows the Korean families sleeping behind boarded storefronts, with rifles tucked under folding chairs. When they do finally mention Korean shop owners, it's in the same breath as vigilantes and escalating tensions. No context, no interviews, just a grainy shot of someone crouched behind a rooftop vent with a weapon. It's not even someone you recognise, but it could be. You all look the same through a long lens. You're not people. You're a problem. They call it a neighbourhood dispute, as if it's 2 equal sides throwing punches at each other, as if it's not abandonment on one end and desperation on the other, as if you all woke up and chose violence. No mention of the days you spent calling for help, no footage of the police cars driving past, no story about the pharmacist who pulled a customer out of a burning building with one arm, while the fire crew stood half a mile away, sipping coffee and adjusting their helmets. You sit on the floor, watching these broadcasts like they're war coverage from another country. One where your neighbourhood doesn't exist, except as a backdrop for headlines that don't name you. Your father mutters something in Korean. You only catch pieces of it, but the bitterness is clear. Your mother changes the channel to a Korean language news station. It's grainy and barely audible, but at least they get the street names right. At one point, a reporter from a local station actually drives through your block. You recognise the storefronts in the background, even though they're blurred by motion and smoke. The camera never stops. No interviews, no questions. Just a 10-second shot of boarded windows and shadows. Then it cuts back to a studio where 2 anchors speculate about why these areas are responding with such aggression. You say nothing. Your cousin just laughs. It's not a real laugh. It sounds more like coughing with emotion stuck in it. You try to call in. The number on the screen flashes during a panel discussion. Share your story. You dial, get put on hold, and then disconnected. You try again. Same result. After the 3rd attempt, you unplug the phone from the wall and leave it like that. They don't want your story. They want something they can shape, something they can narrate in terms that won't upset the advertisers. A neighbour brings in a newspaper. The front page is the same photo you saw last night. A Korean man holding a rifle, standing on a rooftop. No name, no quote. The caption says, "Armed shop owners take justice into their own hands." You don't know whether to laugh or throw up. The implication is clear. You've become the threat. Never mind that you haven't fired a single shot. That you've spent the past 3 days putting out fires, watching other people's kids, and trying to protect something your family spent 30 years building from scratch. There's no in-between. You're either invisible or dangerous, not human, not scared. Not a son on a rooftop hoping his parents don't have to bury him. Just another silhouette for the camera. Another brown face with a gun. Another problem for someone to solve once the dust settles and the ratings drop. You sit back and watch the screen go blue for a moment. Technical difficulties. The irony is almost funny. You finally get silence, and even that feels like a lie because you're still here, still waiting to be acknowledged, and the world just keeps pretending you're not. By now, you've learned to expect the silence. No police, no press, no help. But you weren't expecting the blame? That creeps in like mold. Quiet at first, then everywhere. It doesn't come from one place. It comes from all directions. A reporter stops by while you're boarding up a window that cracked from last night's heat. She doesn't offer help or even basic decency. Just asks if you're part of the militia effort and whether you think Korean business owners escalated tensions by showing force. You don't answer, not because you don't have one, but because you already know what she'll write. You're not here to be quoted, you're here to be cast. Later, a man passes by the storefront as you're locking up for the night. He stops just long enough to spit the words, "Your people brought this on yourselves." You ask what that means, but he's already walking away, not interested in conversation, just in the sting. The implication hangs in the air. It's not a question, not a critique, it's a sentence, delivered without trial. Then it comes from someone you never expected, a man from a local black church, someone your father knows. He comes by with food and soft eyes, says he's checking on everyone in the neighbourhood. You thank him, you're grateful. But then he sighs and says it, almost gently, "You know, some people think the Koreans were asking for it, with how you all treat black customers." He says it like he's explaining the weather. Neutral, factual, uncontested. You stare at him. You want to scream that your mother gave a crying woman a whole box of formula yesterday for free. That your father once drove a stranger to the hospital because no ambulance came. That your uncle got robbed 3 times and never once reported it because he didn't want the police to come down hard on the wrong kids. But you say nothing, because you know none of that matters when people already believe the story they've been told. Fair or not, it's been written. You're on one side, and right now, it's not the right one. That night, the looters come again. You're on the roof, flashlight angled down toward the alley, when you hear glass break 3 storefronts down. Then another crash. Then voices, laughing, whooping, high on chaos. You and your cousin grab the walkies. Mr. Choi radios back. They're at the pharmacy again. You see them now. A group of 5, maybe 6. Hooded, masked, moving fast. One carries a crowbar, another a gas can. You shout from the rooftop. Not a threat, not a warning. Just, "Get out!" Something roar in your throat. One of them flips you off. Another raises the gas can like a trophy. That's when your cousin fires a warning shot into the air. The group scatters, fast, like roaches in daylight. You don't hit anyone. That's the point. You never meant to. The shot echoes through the block, bounces off the bricks like a scream you weren't ready to let out. Then silence, long and deep. You exhale. You feel your knees trembling. You don't want to do that again. But someone else did more than watch. You see the flash the next day, a camera probably from across the street. It must have been one of the few journalists who actually came this far. Or maybe just a neighbour, with a telephoto lens and a grudge. The photo makes the front page of a local paper, a grainy, zoomed-in shot of you crouched behind the sandbags, rifle raised. Your cousin just behind you, looking out with his finger on the trigger guard. There's no caption that explains the break-in, no mention of the gas can, no context, just the headline. Rooftop response raises tensions. That's it. No interview, no background. Just your face, partially shadowed, and a weapon. You didn't even fire the gun, but the image doesn't care. It's a story now, and you're the villain, or at least the cause of escalation. The narrative flips without your permission. You were defending, now you're inciting. You show your father. He looks at it for a long time, then sets it down and says, "Don't let your mother see." She already has. She doesn't say a word about it. She just brings you more food than usual and asks if your vest is still intact. You nod. You both pretend that makes it better. The radio crackles that night with talk of more movement near 7th. You take your post again, heart pounding faster than usual. Not from fear of being attacked. You've felt that for days now. This is something else. The fear of being misread. Of doing nothing and still being called the problem. Of surviving and being blamed for how you did it. You crouch lower behind the bags, rifle flat across your lap, flashlight turned off. You don't want another photo. You don't want another headline. But most of all, you don't want to be what they've already decided you are. And you're not sure you'll get a say in that anymore. By Saturday afternoon, everything feels tighter. The air, the silences, the grip you keep on your rifle. The neighbourhood is quieter than it was yesterday, but it's not peace. It's pressure. Like the space between a lightning flash and the thunder that follows. People have stopped running. The ones still out there aren't just looting anymore. They're targeting, picking storefronts clean with surgical precision. It's not about chaos now. It's about claiming territory while no one's watching. You're posted on the roof again, legs numb from sitting too long behind the sandbags. You've been up here so many hours that the tar beneath you has taken on the shape of your knees. You hear a crack in the distance, not the pop of a bottle or a backfiring car. Something sharper. You flinch. Then another, closer. This one's not in the distance. It's here. A block away someone fires. Twice, then screaming. You press your eye to the scope, but it's too warped to see clearly. All you catch is movement. Someone running, someone stumbling, and then nothing. A moment later, your radio hisses to life. They shot someone, outside the liquor store. I think Mr. Han hit him. Your hands go cold. Mr. Han is your neighbour, owns the liquor store 2 buildings down. Always waved when he saw you. Never looked like the kind of man who would hold a gun, let alone use one. But now, there's blood on the sidewalk outside his shop, and the man who ran off hasn't come back. No sirens, no response, just a widening stain on the concrete, and a group of people dispersing into alleys like smoke. You want to throw up, but there's nothing in your stomach. Just bile and exhaustion. You turn your face away from the scope and take 3 slow breaths. You've never seen blood like that before. Not in real life. Not soaking into a curb you've walked past 100 times. The rifle in your lap suddenly feels heavier, less symbolic. You were holding it like a threat. Now you're holding it like a question. Your cousin clambers up from the ladder, panting. They're hitting the block again. Another group. From the west. You nod, trying to focus. He's sweating through his shirt. His mouth is moving faster than his breath can keep up with. You hand him the canteen. He gulps without thanking you. Neither of you says the thing that's sitting in the air between you. That someone's been shot, maybe killed, and that it might not be the last time. You don't know what you're willing to do. Not really. You thought you did. But thinking about defending your family, your block, your parents' store, it's different when the danger is theoretical. When you're looking at it through a warped scope, at a distance. When it gets close enough to bleed in front of you, the math changes. Would you shoot someone? Not into the air, not as a warning, at them. To stop them. To protect what's left. You don't know. And now you have to. Just before sunset, someone throws a bottle at your building. You hear the glass break, then the hiss as flame blooms along the edge of the rooftop. A Molotov, homemade, clumsy, but close. It lands 3 feet from your cousin's post, flames licking at the edge of the parapet wall. He curses and scrambles back as you grab the fire extinguisher and spray, foam covering the dark smear on the rooftop. The fire dies quickly, but your heart doesn't slow down for 20 minutes. Whoever threw it doesn't stick around. You catch a blur, a hoodie disappearing behind a dumpster. Another moment, another decision you're too slow to make. You didn't shoot. You didn't even lift your rifle. Your cousin doesn't say anything. He just goes back to his post and sits harder than before, like he's trying to dig into the building. When you go downstairs that evening, you find your father cleaning the same spot on the counter for the third time. There's nothing there, just a clean patch in the edge of the register. Your mother brings down soup and says nothing when she sees your hands shaking. She ladles it into bowls and sets them down like you're still children. Like this is just another long day after school. You take the first bite and nearly cry, not from emotion, just from the fact that it's warm. It's the first warm thing you've had in days. You eat slowly, staring at the wall, trying not to think about the body that might still be lying in the street. You don't know if anyone claimed it. You don't know if they will. Back on the roof later that night, you hold your rifle differently. Not like a tool, not like a bluff. You hold it like it could matter, but you still hope it won't. You scan the alleyways. You check every rooftop. You listen for footsteps with your breath caught halfway in your throat. You still haven't made your decision, but you're closer. Too close. Time folds in on itself, shifts into something formless, stretchy, unpleasant. You don't know how long it's been since the riots began. 4 days? 5? You still count things, but not hours anymore. Instead, you count batteries, half-empty water bottles, crackers left in the vending machine. You count windows that haven't been broken, roofs still manned, shots that weren't fired. Yet, the neighbourhood feels hollowed out. The sirens have slowed, but that doesn't mean it's over. It just means the noise has changed. Fewer crowds now. Fewer people running. What's left is quieter, meaner. Break-ins are more precise, coordinated. Not mobs anymore. Individuals. That makes it worse somehow. It's no longer a wave you're hiding from. It's a slow, deliberate knock at the door, asking, "Are you still afraid?" Everyone on your team is running on fumes. Your cousin hasn't slept in 2 days and it shows. He paces the rooftop like it's a treadmill, muttering instructions to himself under his breath. At one point he tries to rewrap the grip tape on your dad's old rifle with electrical wire and duct tape. It doesn't work. He throws it across the roof. You both pretend the sound doesn't make you jump. Your uncle sleeps sitting up now, not out of discipline, because he can't lie down anymore without his back spasming. He keeps rubbing his shoulder and saying something's pinched. You offer to find him ibuprofen from the storeroom. He says no, then 10 minutes later asks if there's any left. You lie and say yes. You bring him mints. You don't remember the last time you changed clothes. Your shirt smells like oil and nervous sweat you've stopped noticing. The only things you feel clearly anymore are caffeine, anxiety, and the crushing weight of your own restraint. Your hands shake when they're still too long. You keep imagining the sound of footsteps on the fire escape. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're not. You always check anyway. And then sometime past midnight, something finally snaps. It starts small, a dropped flashlight. Your cousin knocks it off the ledge while adjusting his seat. It clatters loudly onto the tar paper. No one's nearby, no one saw, but it feels too loud, too risky, too stupid. You hiss at him to be careful. He snaps back that maybe if you were helping instead of criticising, things wouldn't keep falling apart. You tell him to watch his tone. He tells you to go to hell. It escalates fast, too fast. Voices raised, fists clenched. You say he's reckless. He says you're a coward. He says all you've done is sit there and judge everyone while he's out risking everything. You tell him he's been acting like a wannabe action hero since day one. He shouts that you didn't even want to be here, that you should have gone home and left the real work to people with guts. The words land hard. You feel them in your ribs. You say nothing. You just stand there, frozen, too angry to speak, too tired to move. Your fists are clenched so tightly they start to cramp. And then you almost cry, not from the fight, not from what he said, but because it's all too much. The sleep deprivation, the fear, the way no one is coming and everyone's pretending they're okay. It's not the rage that breaks you, it's the quiet behind it, the helplessness that's been festering for days and finally found the surface. You step away, back to the edge of the rooftop. You breathe through your nose, eyes burning. You swallow hard and dig your nails into your palms until the sensation cuts through the fog. You will not cry, not here, not in front of your cousin, not with the rifle at your feet, not while people still expect you to have your shit together. He doesn't apologize, neither do you. But a few minutes later, he leaves a half-empty energy drink beside your boot. You don't thank him. He doesn't ask. It's enough. Down below, someone runs across the alleyway. You both stand immediately, weapons lifted. No shots, just posture. Whoever it is disappears into the dark. Another shape follows a minute later. Maybe they're looters. Maybe just people looking for somewhere safer than wherever they were before. You can't tell anymore. The world's gone blurry. Everyone's a shadow until they're close enough to hurt you. When the sun starts to rise again, pale, dull, indifferent, you're still awake. Your cousin leans back against the air vent and closes his eyes, but you can tell he's not sleeping. You're not sure any of you will sleep again, not properly. Your stomach growls, but you ignore it. Hunger feels manageable compared to everything else. You take the last 2 crackers from your pocket and split them without looking. He takes his half and nods. This is how you hold together now. Not with trust, not with rest, but with just enough silence to keep going. You always knew your parents had it hard. They told you the stories in pieces, never all at once. Your father came over with $20 in his pocket and a suitcase so small it barely fit a change of clothes. He spent his first year in Los Angeles cutting fish in the back of a grocery store, his hands blistered and swollen from ice water and bone. The tips of his fingers cracked so often he used rubber bands to hold gauze in place while he worked. He still has the scars. Sometimes he rubs them without realizing it. He never talks about that year. You only know the details because your uncle told you once, after a few too many beers and a long silence. He didn't sleep, he said. He just worked and prayed and stared at the ceiling. Your dad was 23 then, not much older than you are now, the same age you are, as you sit on this rooftop, clutching a rifle, defending the building he nearly broke himself to pay off. Your mother came later, after they saved enough to send for her. She didn't speak any English when she arrived. She worked 2 jobs and still packed your lunch by hand every morning. She used to lie to the tax man, not because she wanted to cheat the system, but because the system didn't care whether you had enough to eat. She hid cash under the floorboards and paid in exact change at grocery stores so she wouldn't have to explain her accent. You once saw her spend 10 minutes rehearsing how to say turkey sandwich before walking into a deli. You didn't understand it then, not fully. You just knew that she hated talking on the phone in English and that you were the one who had to speak to the landlord, the utility company, the school nurse. You resented it sometimes, not because you didn't love her, but because you didn't want to carry it. And now, decades later, you realize you never really put it down. You just got better at pretending it wasn't heavy. When you were 6, your father bought this building. Not the business, the building. He'd saved for 9 years, paid cash up front. You thought it meant you were rich. He let you hammer a nail into the wall to hang a plastic clock. You still remember how proud he looked, standing in a room that smelled like old fry oil and dust, telling you, "This is yours now too." You didn't know what that meant. You do now. You remember the day the insurance company doubled their premium after the second break-in. Your father didn't say anything. He just sat at the kitchen table, looking at the paperwork, his hands curled into fists. Your mother stood behind him with her arms folded, biting her lip until it went pale. He didn't cry in front of her. He waited until he thought everyone was asleep. But you heard him. The quiet kind of crying that sounds like someone swallowing their own breath. You remember the day he fired an employee for stealing, He didn't raise his voice. He didn't call the police. He just handed the man his paycheck, bowed slightly, and locked the door behind him. You asked why he didn't press charges. He said, "Sometimes the cost of dignity is cheaper than the cost of justice." You remember your mother getting followed home once? You were 12. She told you she was fine, but she started carrying pepper spray in her purse and stopped walking alone at night. You remember her flinching when someone knocked too loudly at the store's back door. You remember how she kept smiling anyway. All of that is in the walls, in the floorboards, in the corner of the stockroom where the rice sacks are piled high to block stray bullets. Every dent in the tile, every faded receipt, every burned out light bulb that never got replaced. It's all theirs. The building isn't just brick and mortar. It's time and pain and pride and sacrifice. It's the 20 years your father aged in 10. The laugh your mother used to have before it got quiet. The first birthday cake you ate in the back office with store-brand soda and a candle stuck in a Twinkie. So no, you're not just defending a store. You're defending a gamble. A decision they made when they had nothing but hope. And each other. You're defending the hours they didn't sleep, the meals they skipped, the hospital visits they delayed. You're defending the weight they carried so you could go to school with clean shoes and a packed lunch. You're defending their one bet on America. The idea that if they worked hard enough, the country would meet them halfway. And now here you are, on the roof, holding a rifle you barely know how to use, listening for footsteps in the dark because the country never showed up. You glance down at your father, asleep on a folding chair behind the front counter, one hand still resting on the bat he's kept since the 80s. His fingers twitch in his sleep. Your mother is upstairs, still boiling water to sterilize what little food you can still prepare. You wonder if they regret it. Not the store, but the whole dream. The gamble. The belief that this country would notice if they fell. You hope they don't. Because you can't afford to. Not while you're still up here, keeping watch. You see the headline on a paper someone leaves on the back steps. Not one of the big national outlets, just a local tabloid. The kind with half-inch letters and dramatic photos. It shows a grainy, zoomed-in shot of a man crouched on a rooftop, rifle in hand, face partially shadowed. The caption reads, "Rooftop Koreans defend their turf." You stare at it for a long time, the cheap ink bleeding slightly in the midday heat, and then you fold the page in half so you don't have to look at the picture anymore. It's not even you in the photo, but it might as well be. You've stood in that same pose, worn that same tired scowl, held that same cracked stock rifle while the wind stung your eyes. There's no name, no story, just an image and a headline, a meme before memes existed, a concept flattened into an aesthetic. Your cousin thinks it's funny. "They finally noticed," he says, shaking the paper. "Took them long enough." He reads the article out loud in a bad announcer voice, exaggerating every word. A wave of armed Korean business owners has taken to the rooftops of Koreatown to protect their properties amid the ongoing unrest. You don't laugh. Neither does your father, who turns the volume up on the police scanner and doesn't say a word. You know what it looks like from a distance. You've seen the photos now. Men standing tall against the skyline, weapons slung like props, bandanas tied like movie villains or freedom fighters, depending on who's doing the editing. You've read the comments too, on the early message boards and news blurbs. Badass. Don't mess with Koreans. Wish they'd come protect my neighborhood. But that's not what it is. That's not what this has been. It's not cool. It's not a stand. It's not bravery with a soundtrack. It's piss in a bottle. Because you can't leave your post long enough to make it downstairs. It's bruises on your thigh from lying too long on rooftop gravel. It's the skin peeling from your shoulders because you forgot sunscreen on the first day and never had time to care. It's cracked lips and sour breath and the smell of old sweat clinging to your clothes because the water needs to be saved for drinking. It's watching your mother walk to the corner of the block and yelling at her to go back inside because someone just threw a brick 2 streets over. It's her flinching like you hit her with the words. It's seeing your father sleep with a bat across his knees and realising it's not for show anymore. It's because he doesn't trust his reflexes to be fast enough if something happens in the middle of the night. There's no glory in this, no swagger. It's not a righteous resistance, it's just survival. You don't stand on the roof because you're making a statement. You do it because no one else will. Because the cops left, and the fire department doesn't answer, and the city has redrawn its lines without telling anyone. You're not a symbol. You're a placeholder for where help was supposed to be. But that's not the story people want to hear. The nickname sticks fast. Rooftop Korean, singular, like a mascot, like a video game character. You picture someone out there photoshopping sunglasses onto a pixelated version of you, adding sound effects and fireballs. You wonder if they'd still cheer if they knew you cried into your sleeve the night your neighbour shot someone. If they'd still call you badass if they saw you vomit after finding blood on your curb. You think about the future, whether people will remember this right, whether someone years from now will think this was strength, when all it was a refusal to lie down. You worry they'll turn it into something neat and polished, something proud. And you're not proud, you're angry, you're tired, you're scared. And underneath it all, you're still waiting to feel safe. Your father doesn't read the article. He folds the paper carefully and places it under the rice sack near the rooftop hatch. Later, you find it crumpled, soggy from spilled tea, the ink running across the photo like it's trying to escape its own story. Your cousin takes a picture of you on the roof at sunset, says he wants to remember what you looked like if this goes down in history. You tell him to delete it. He doesn't. He just lowers the camera and says nothing. The next time someone calls you a rooftop Korean, you don't answer. Not because you're ashamed, because you know they're not talking about you. Not really. They're talking about the idea of you, the costume, the silhouette, the cartoon in a flak vest. But you're not a story. You're not a headline. You're a kid with a gun and a knot in your stomach and a half-loaded walkie-talkie that hasn't picked up a signal in 2 hours. You're not cool. You're just still here, and you wish that counted for more. It starts as a rumour, passed over the radio, sometime Sunday afternoon. A clipped voice on one of the AM news stations says the National Guard is being deployed. The city has requested assistance. Units are mobilising. The words are cautious, bureaucratic, but you hear what you need to. The Guard is coming. You and your cousin actually cheer. It's small, tired, and weirdly sarcastic, but a cheer all the same. Something like hope stirs in your chest for the first time in days. You imagine it for a moment. Trucks rolling down 8th, soldiers fanning out, calm returning like a curtain falling on a bad play. You picture someone official, stepping onto your roof, clipboard in hand, telling you to go inside now, that it's over, that you can sleep, that you can be someone's responsibility again. You let yourself believe it, just long enough to feel lighter. But the hours stretch, and no one comes. By dusk, it's just another night. The scanner is still full of calls, fires, break-ins, reports of people looting medicine from a shuttered pharmacy. You try to find updates on the radio, but the details are vague. The Guard is here, they say. Just not in your part of the city. You turn on the TV and see them standing around in Beverly Hills. Pristine streets, no smoke, clean uniforms catching the sun like they're in a recruitment ad. You look out your window at your own street, where another liquor store just went dark and someone's dragging something heavy through the alley behind your building. You switch the TV off. Later, you hear that they've been deployed to strategic locations. You're not sure what that means. You're not sure why a city on fire needs strategy more than it needs protection. What you do know is that it doesn't include Koreatown. Not yet, maybe not ever. You stop cheering. People in the neighbourhood start asking questions, not with words but with looks. Shrugged shoulders, tired expressions. Everyone heard the same news. Everyone watched the same press conferences. Everyone heard the word restored. But the fires still burn. The shots still echo. The guard is here in theory, but in practice, it's still just you and the same group of neighbours sleeping in shifts with weapons they barely know how to use. Your cousin tries to stay upbeat. He starts keeping count of how many times the media says, "Order is being restored." He marks it on the back of an empty cereal box like it's a game. By midnight, he's already up to 7. But even he's quieter than usual. You catch him pacing the rooftop, with a towel draped around his shoulders, like a cape, muttering under his breath. You don't interrupt. You've started talking to yourself too, when you think no one's listening. Your father turns off the scanner at one point, not because it's quiet, but because it's not. Because the codes are starting to repeat. 211 415 901. Robbery, disturbance, unknown situation. Every block, every hour. You know them all by now. He doesn't want to hear it anymore. He wants the lie just for a minute. So you let him sit in silence. That night, someone hits the corner bodega, the one run by the Vietnamese couple who always saved the last bag of jasmine rice for your mum. You see the flames from the roof, licking up over the awning, curling around the satellite dish. You radio it in, even though you know no one will answer. You just want the record. You hear a voice over the walkie from 2 blocks down. "I thought they said it was over." No one replies. You grip your rifle tighter. Your legs are stiff from crouching, your fingers numb from the wind. You haven't cried yet. Not since the start. But tonight you feel close. Not from fear, from betrayal, from being told it was ending, only to find out you were never even part of the equation. At one point, you see headlights, a convoy maybe, 3 large vehicles rolling down the avenue. You rush to the edge of the roof, heart pounding. For a moment, you believe, but as they get closer, you see they're just garbage trucks, city contractors, armoured in wire mesh, clearing debris and broken glass while escorted by 2 cruisers that don't stop. They pass your block without even glancing up. You watch the taillights disappear into the smoke. You sit back against the wall, rifle resting on your lap. Your cousin is asleep beside you, mouth slightly open, his fingers still curled around the walkie. You envy him. You want to sleep too, but your body won't give you that anymore. It only gives you alertness, dry eyes, and muscle cramps. So you wait, still, because the guard is here, just not for you. On Monday morning, they start using words like calm. The mayor says the city is stabilising. The media calls it a turning point. One broadcast even has the gall to say the worst is over. You watch from the rooftop, still holding your rifle, still scanning the street like the fire might start again. At any moment. Calm isn't what this feels like. This feels like the air after a funeral. Quiet, dry, and clinging to your clothes like ash. You step down from the roof just after sunrise. The ladder creaks beneath your weight, unfamiliar after so many days of crouching and pacing. When your boots hit the ground, it feels wrong. Too soft, too slow. You've been up high so long that the street feels distant, like a memory you're walking back into. You stretch your arms and feel how stiff your back has become, how brittle your legs feel. Your body has moulded itself to a rooftop posture. Always braced, always half tensed, you walk the block. No one stops you, no one speaks. A few other store owners are sweeping glass into piles, the motion slow and meaningless, like they're doing it just to have something in their hands. Doors are open, some of them off their hinges, windows blackened with soot. You pass the corner store where you used to buy soda as a kid. It's been gutted, shelves overturned, a pile of melted plastic in the doorway. The owner stands in the back with a hose, spraying at nothing. The mural your mother loved, the one with the lotus flowers on the side of the dry cleaners, is still there mostly, but the colours are charred at the edges, streaked with ash. Someone scrawled something across it in red paint. You can't tell what it said. Someone else already tried to wash it off. The shapes are still there though, angry, unfinished. The sidewalks are layered in soot and dust and something that smells faintly like burned oil. You step over broken glass and something that might have been a shoe. On the corner, a garbage can has been melted into the concrete. Above it, a flyer still clings to a bulletin board. The paper is half burned, the corners curled, but the words are visible. Community Health Fair, postponed. You stare at it for a while, then keep walking. Some of the neighbours nod when they see you. Others look away. One man thanks you. You don't know for what. You want to say you didn't do anything, that all you did was hold your breath for 5 days and hope the worst didn't reach your door. But you just nod. Because what else is there to say? You pass your own storefront and stop. The boards are still up. You haven't taken them down yet. Not because of safety, because of what's underneath. You don't want to see the scorch marks, the cracked glass, the graffiti someone sprayed across the lower bricks on night 3. You know it's there. You've seen it in your head every time you close your eyes, but you haven't faced it in daylight. Not yet. You go back inside. The shelves are mostly intact, a few boxes knocked over, some inventory lost to spoilage. Your father has already started wiping things down. Your mother is sorting water bottles into plastic crates, humming something tuneless. It's not normal, it's just motion. Something to keep from freezing. You don't speak until your cousin appears in the doorway, his eyes red from sleep or smoke, maybe both. He smiles like the week was just a bad joke that's finally over. But you know better. You sit on the floor, your back to the counter, and rest your arms on your knees. Your rifle is still upstairs, leaning against the AC unit, where you left it at dawn. Everyone's talking like it's done now, like Monday marks the end of it. But it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a pause, a shift in key. The buildings are still standing, but what held them up? The routines, the assumptions, the illusion that anyone was ever coming to help. Those are gone. You're alive, but something in you isn't. You feel like you failed, though you don't know what test you were taking. You feel ashamed, even though you didn't start any of this. You feel heavy, not just tired, but weighted, like grief that hasn't found a name yet. You want to tell someone, but you don't even know what it is you'd say. So you sit there, breathing the ash-thick air, listening to the sound of your father sweeping the same patch of tile for the 3rd time. Watching your mother stack bottles no one will buy today. Hearing your cousin tell someone on the radio that things are looking up. And you try to believe it, even if you don't. Even if the silence feels more dangerous than the fire ever did. People start asking almost immediately. Not the ones who are there. They already know, or they know enough not to ask. It's the others. People from outside the neighbourhood, classmates, co-workers, someone from church. They ask casually, like they're requesting a movie recommendation. What was it like up there? Was it scary? Did you really have a gun? You answer carefully. You give them pieces, not lies exactly, just edits. You talk about how hot the rooftop got during the day, how the sandbags started to smell after the 3rd afternoon of sun. You mention the looters in passing, make a joke about vending machine dinners and 2-hour shifts. You leave out the parts where your hands wouldn't stop shaking. You don't mention how your cousin almost fired at a cat, or how your uncle went silent for a full 12 hours after he saw blood on the sidewalk. You don't talk about the nights you didn't sleep, about the way your father started muttering in Korean again, the way he used to when he first came to America, when everything was new and hostile and uncertain. You don't talk about your mother kneeling by the front window with her rosary, even though she stopped going to church years ago. You don't mention that you almost cried when you heard the first gunshot, not because someone got hurt, but because it meant it had really started. Instead you say, we held it together. And technically, that's true. The building's still standing. So are you. People like the story. They like the idea of you up there. Brave, resolved, maybe a little wild. They call you fearless. Some even say they're proud of what your community did. Some call it inspiring. They want to know if you really pointed a rifle at someone, if you ever fired it. They want to believe it was clean. You don't correct them. You let them believe you were strong. that it was heroic, that it was cinematic. You let them believe you felt powerful up there, that the fear didn't eat through your gut like acid every time a bottle smashed or a voice yelled too close. You let them think you stood tall the whole time, that you were never hungry, never angry, never unsure. You do it because someone has to carry the story, and it's easier to carry the version that makes people nod and smile and walk away thinking you're unbreakable. You don't tell your parents half of what happened. You let them believe they were protected, that you had it under control, that you were never cornered, that you never came that close to pulling the trigger. You don't tell your mother how many nights you clutched the rifle so tightly your fingers went numb. You don't tell your father that you nearly begged one of the fire crews to come back when they passed your block without stopping. You let them think you were steady, because if they knew the truth, the full, messy, scared truth, it might undo them. And after everything they sacrificed, they deserve the comfort of believing their son was strong enough to stand on the roof and carry the weight without cracking. Years later, you hear people talk about the rooftop Koreans like a meme. You see the images online, edited, glorified, flattened into symbols, sunglasses, rifles, stoic postures against smoky skies. You hear people say things like, they handled their business, or that's how you protect your community. You hear pride, you hear admiration, you also hear erasure. They don't know the fear, they don't know the silence, they don't know about the nights you sat awake, whispering prayers you barely remembered, trying to stay still so your cousin could sleep. They don't know how your hands smelled like old rubber from the grip tape, or how the walkie-talkie sometimes went dead in the middle of a sentence. They don't know how loud the glass sounded when it broke 2 blocks away, or how fast you learned the difference between a firework and a gunshot. They don't know about the boy who bled out in the street, about the store that never reopened, about the mural you still can't bring yourself to look at. They'll never know, not because you're hiding it, but because you've learned what parts of the story the world can handle. So you tell the easier version, the one where you were brave, the one where no one cried, the one where your cousin didn't nearly fall asleep with his finger on the trigger. You carry the story like armour, polished, simplified, durable. You survived. But not all of you came back down from that roof. And that part stays with you. Quiet, heavy, and yours. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not a legend of glory, but a memory made of rooftop gravel, unanswered calls, and the quiet kind of courage no one celebrates. If you're still awake, thank you for listening, for sitting with the discomfort, and for remembering the ones who were left to defend a city that had already forgotten them. If you'd like early access to more stories like this, ad-free audio of each episode, or just want to support the show, the Patreon link is in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other overlooked corners of history you'd like to see explored. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find these stories. Sleep well.